866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874. On Twitter, you can weigh in at David Webb Show. We're going to go further than just China, though, because the challenges that we face are not just limited to China, but they're proxies and allies around the world. We'll do that shortly with Dan Davis, who's actually here right now. Colonel Dan Davis, Army retired, senior fellow, military expert at Defense Priorities. Colonel, we just had a vote in Washington, D.C., and I think people got very little bit of it in the news, but go back to February 13th when there was a vote to limit President Trump's war powers when it came to Iran, supported by 47 Democrats and 8 Republicans: Susan Collins, Todd Young, Jerry Moran, Mike Lee, Rand Paul, Lisa Murkowski, Bill Cassidy, and Lamar Alexander. Today, and just a few days ago, that veto that the president issued was not overridden. We're talking about China, but Iran is a partner to China in many ways. How important was this vote?
Well, I look at it a little bit different. I don't look at it as one that was trying to limit President Trump's. I think it was more like trying to bring the entire system of armed forces and the use of force into compliance with existing law, whether it's President Trump, whether it's whoever may follow, whether it's anybody else. Is that what we don't want is a system to where an individual can just decide on his own, this is what I'm going to do, which could drag the nation into war. And when you actually look at the language used specifically in there, in the document, it affirms President Trump's role as commander-in-chief, and it doesn't want to limit him, but what it does want to do expressly states that before the United States takes action that could drag it into a war, it needs to be discussed and debated at the Congress, and the American people have to be behind it, so that it's in compliance with
but that was not the intent of the Democrats and these Republicans. It was not. And we have to combine both the law and the public narrative here. This was an attempt to bring President Trump into the position in the administration and if it were applied, future administrations into the position where Congress gets to crowdsource within the chambers of Congress based on political ideals, whether the president can take action when there is a clear and present threat to the United States or our allies or our assets overseas.
Well, except that that's not the case. I mean, the law as it exists right now already gives the president that authorization if we're involved in imminent hostilities or we're being attacked. He has the authority without having to do that. This says that you can't just decide you don't like them or that you think they may be a threat, and then you want to go and launch an attack, which many of the people in the United States, politics or otherwise, may not agree to. And I think that that's a necessity. Even if you completely like
what warranted this law?
You have to do that.
What was it that was the genesis of this effort by the Democrats and supported by some of those Republicans? We took out a terrorist leader at the top of his game, Qasem Soleimani, someone who has been planning and plans daily with the IRGC how to kill Americans, other countries. They foster revolutions. They expand into Central and South America. They're a global reach. And we take out a terrorist leader of that level and deputies, and then all of a sudden there's sudden recognition that we need to somehow limit a president's ability to defend this country?
Well, no, and I can tell you for absolute fact, because I've talked to both Senator Paul and Senator Lee, even when they were in the process, their staffs were in the process of drafting up this legislation. This has been something that they have had a passion about for many, many, many years. And we're talking Republicans here, not the Democrats. They have their own motivations. But these guys have been saying, hey, we want to bring the country into compliance, all presidents, anyone into compliance with our own law. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Even in this draft legislation, not draft, but in this bill that they passed, they expressly lauded the president for taking out Soleimani. So it's not even against that. It's just that before you do something that could drag us into war, we have to follow law. I mean, even if we don't like it.
What action taken by any president in the last 20 years has violated the existing law and given reason for this legislation?
Oh, goodness.
Major action.
Almost all of them. Almost all
Major,
of them. I mean,
the presidents are required. They're required to notify Congress if they take action. They've done so. Both sides have done so. So I'm not even going to pick Republican or Democrat. There can be debates over intelligence and other reasons, but what action has actually violated existing law that this was designed to support or replace?
Well, see, that's the key thing right there, and a lot of people have that view. The law doesn't say they have to inform Congress. It specifically says they have to get authorization from Congress before taking action. And, Obama was a horrible violator of this throughout his entire years and effort. And, like this, for example, specifically, we're talking about the attacks on Libya that Obama did. We're talking about the attacks that Trump has ordered against Syria in 2017 and 2018. I mean, those were both attacks against foreign countries without the authorization of Congress. And, of course, they always default to this, 2001 and 2002 AUMFs, which is also expressly stated by both Rand Paul and Senator Lee that they don't like that being used because it has nothing to do with 9/11. And I think that's pretty valid.